Hello and welcome to House of Cult. My name is Alessandro, and with me is Ariel Salsa, the owner and founder of the Pretty Cult. Today, we are so stoked to welcome genre-bending musician and A-list photographer Nathan James, who is set to release his debut studio album, Hollywood Mortician, on July 11th via CrowdKill Records. Thanks so much for joining us, Nathan. How's the day going?
Good, man. I been busy all week and it's gonna be busy rest of this month. So I'm just getting everything organized and just prioritizing everything one step at a time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like this May has been the busiest month of my life as well, too. I don't know what
Yeah,
it is. I think it's just because we're getting close to summer and music industry just starts to ramp up.
yeah, not big time.
Absolutely, man. Well, I want to sort of start from the beginning, and touch on your origin story a little bit. I understand you grew up in the Denver area. What was that sort of like? What kind of music was played around your home during those early years? What was the scene sort of like? And were there any artists or experiences that first kind of sparked your creative interest in music?
Yeah. Well, I grew up in a little town in Denver called Louisville,
Yeah.
Colorado, and at the time it was probably like 10,000 or less people living in that city, and it was a very like blue collar, like old school mining town,
Yeah.
and but the music I listened to a lot, right, was just what, my dad would play or my sister would play. And my dad listened to a lot of hip hop and he listened to a lot of like older school rock, like the Kinks and stuff like that. But I would say that my musical grow up in that city was very much from my dad of listening to Tupac and listening to like the Kinks. And so like those two worlds of like hip hop and rock is kind of what I grew up listening to and around. Didn't really listen to any country. It's just mainly just hip hop and rock type of stuff. So that's where that all kind of based off of and what that whole environment was like.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, Tupac and the Kinks, you would never really
Yeah.
kind of put the two of them in the same world, I
Yeah,
feel
right.
like.
This is a weird sense.
That's awesome, man. I mean, that totally makes sense with, how much of like, a mixed bag your music is. There's so many different sides to it, and they are such like polarizing ends, but somehow they make a ton of sense together too.
Yeah,
It's super
100%.
cool. Yeah, man. And obviously like your current sound, is blending like new metal, industrial trap, and like obviously some of the like glory days of like early 2000s hip hop where it's super unapologetic and just super like also pretty tongue in cheek too.
Yeah.
Who would you sort of identify as your core musical influences now and how have those sort of shaped your vision going forward?
Yeah, I'd say that the main influences now, I think it can kind of change all the time because you find new artists all the time. You grab a little inspo from here and there. Um, but I'd say the main, definitely from a visual perspective, Marilyn Manson.
Hmm.
Same with, like an audio perspective too, just, a sound perspective, both visually and sound, Marilyn Manson for sure. But then on like the hip hop side of things, Eminem, 50 Cent, I love, Eminem, 50 Cent, I love those two artists. And then the band Stained,
Yeah.
Aaron Lewis.
Yeah.
I love Stained. Stained and the Goo Goo Dolls is kind of what I really started listening to when I was in high school, early, like, freshman or sophomore year. And I really started to listen to more like that type of music and, freshman, sophomore year of high school. I wish I could remember how I discovered Stained because I don't remember. It might have been just me on like a YouTube bender, just watching like music videos. And then this, it's been a while, music video popped
Yeah.
up. I think that's how I got into Stained. But yeah, I love Stained.
I love that. I mean, can you think of like a heavier song than Mud Shovel by Stain? Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
so sick, man.
Love
Like,
Mud Shovel.
dude, it's so good. Absolutely.
Yeah, I got to see
Yeah.
them live in 2022. They were amazing.
Sick. That's
Yeah, they're
awesome.
so good. Yeah.
Nice.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Obviously before your music career really is taken off, your first creative outlet, right, was photography. And I would love to know what kind of initially drew you to that medium of art and kind of how it's evolved to the present, and how you're still actively doing photography as well as music, and now you've worked with some major names like Avril Lavigne, Post Malone, MGK. Like I would just love to know more about kind of how you decided to like get into photography.
Yeah, photography was a complete accident. So my mom, is an artist, not like a musician, but like a painter and a
Hmm.
sculptor. And she was a high school art teacher for many years. And so
Oh,
like
cool.
arts and creatives and shit like that have always been around my house. And I was nationally ranked in the country for basketball coming out of high school. I was top
Oh,
100 point guards in the nation off the ESPN rankings when I was coming out of high school. And so I played college basketball for 2 years, but I had a knee surgery my first year in college, my second year in college, and it ended my career.
oh
And
man.
then my mom just sent me a camera in the mail, this little cheap Olympus camera, and I started just taking random photos. When I was going to college in Casper, Wyoming, and I was just taking, these little photos here and there all over the town, and then I'd put them on a tripod and go in front of it and like make a pose. So I kind of just was fucking around with shit like that. And then I started getting into hand painting shoes, like actual sneakers,
Oh,
customizing them, designing them, and people would send me their shoes, and I'd get paid to do them, and they'd ship me their shoes and all that stuff. And I started making a little bit of money on campus, on the college campus, because again, I had these knee surgeries, I couldn't play anymore. There's nothing I could do, and I started to make some money, and I started making more money than I've ever made in my life, make painting these shoes. And I was like, wow, you can like make a career out of doing your own thing. I never thought I could be an entrepreneur, or what that was never like taught, of, hey, you can do things on your own. It was always, you got to get a job, you got to work for someone. And so started painting these shoes in my dorm room. It was like a Foot Locker in there, man. I had boxes of shoes, like tons of shoes everywhere. And then I would take photographs of the shoes before and after, right? So that was really happening. And then I did body art too, on females, where I like paint their entire body like crazy canvases. And then from there, I was like, man, I really like photography. I want to do more photography. And so I started doing more photography stuff. And I met a lady one night out at a lounge. She was like ran like this magazine. Her name was Rue
mm.
Black. And I was wearing this crazy outfit. She was like, yo, like, this, your fit is so dope. Like, what do you do? And I was like, oh, I'm a photographer. And I never really was a photographer, right? I just like literally started to like say, hey, I want to be a photographer. But I was like, yeah, I'm a lit ass photographer. And she's like, oh, that's what's up. She's like, Mac Miller's coming into town performing at Red Rocks, and we need someone to shoot like his set or show or whatever. Have you ever done anything like that before? And I was like, fuck yeah. I never had. I just totally lied. I was like, hell yeah, 100%. And so I had a month to like mosey around and like I was sneaking into venues, practicing on my friends, trying to learn how to really like shoot and do live concert photography and just different type of photography stuff. And the day the show came up, I crushed it. I did a good job. I met some other artists there too. I was there really early, and one of the artists was walking down stage. He's like, yo, you a touring photographer? And I was like, yeah, I am. And he's like, yeah, my name's Tory Lanez. And then
Oh
like
hell.
I started shooting for him a little bit, a couple times. And then it just, snowballed effect into that, to the Post Malone and all the Avril Lavigne's and all that stuff. Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
so truly a fake it till you make it. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a concert photographer. Like it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just like, I always just believed in myself that whatever it is that I'm doing, I can always figure it out and I can always make it happen. And I've done that time and time again with like so many different businesses that I've done. And so I just, you know, I I have a good confidence and like an understanding that I know that whatever it is I'm trying to do, I know how to figure it out and make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would love to know too, like as a photographer, what kind of defines an amazing photo for you or a shoot in your eyes?
Yeah, I think like the outfit, the makeup, the composition, and like the angle and the pose and the lighting. That's and the edit. That's everything. You know what I mean? Like I look for all those elements like in a killer shot, Unless it's a
Yeah.
portrait photo. Like I got really known for doing like portraits, like, here up of people and just like
Yeah.
facial stuff. And I was really good at just capturing all the detail and the lighting and the contrast and making everyone's skin look nice but not fake. And so yeah, just depends.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious what sort of led to the transition to music as a recording artist. It
Yeah.
sounds like this kind of started happening during COVID. Did the lockdown period sort of play a role in you taking that plunge, like having sort of unlimited time to dive into that?
Not really. I mean, so I did right at the end of 2019, I did my first ever like photography gallery,
Okay.
and it was called Nightmares. And there are these 6 photographs that I shot that each like signify a different emotions and things we go through in our lifetime. And one was like, do you give a fuck? Am I good enough? Can you hear me? Is this how it ends? And why can't I feel anything? And so I was like, what would be another art medium to add to these photographs into this photography gallery that no photographer's ever done before? And I was like, what if I make songs that correlate with the photographs?
Mm.
And so I did that, and I made these 6 songs, and they were horrendous. But from doing it, I was like, wow, I fucking love this. Why haven't I been doing this? This is so fun. And there's so much more to, like, doing the music allows me to do photography, videography, and, the sound portion of it. I was like, man, I want to be doing all this. So yeah, I started just in 2020, put out my first song, and just started to figure out my sound and how I want to do things. And just slowly it's, been developing over these 4.5 years, and everything's been going really good. It's on a up for sure. And that's been my number one priority and focus since I started.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. I love that concept. That's such a cool way, to get started. And obviously, since, launching your music career, you've accumulated over like 12 million streams of active rock, radio traction and dedicated fan base. Has your success really felt surreal? And what has been some, defining lessons that you've learned kind of in the past few years since you've really started this?
Yeah, I mean, I think success is such a funny thing, right? Like, because I know that I've had success doing this, but it's never the success that you want, right? You always want 10 times more.
Touche.
So
Yeah.
yeah, right. So I've just been trying to be grateful for the little bit of success that I do have, because there's a lot of people who don't have any success with it. And I am self-aware that, you know, most people who start like the music stuff 4.5 years in, or even 10 years in, aren't as far along as that I've had, or the opportunities that I've had. So I'm super grateful, and I'm just like humbled by all that stuff. But I want more. I always want more. I always want to be better, and um, always trying to grow. So that's really the main takeaway with that.
For sure. And
Absolutely.
that leads us to, your debut album, Hollywood Mortician. We bring this up all the time on the show, but you obviously have your whole life to write your first album. So I assume the fact that you are now finally taking that plunge and putting out a full, body of work, a full LP, that definitely means, this is obviously the best representation of this project to date. Would you agree? And what was sort of the creative and recording process like?
Yeah, I fully agree with that, man. I've been wanting to put out an album since forever, and I'm glad I didn't, because an album just takes so much time. And again, I didn't even really know my sound yet, in the first year, the second year, stuff like that. So I'm glad I've waited till now, to where it's like, I feel a little more confident with what it is I'm going for. But yeah, the album stuff is going to be 12 songs. There's some songs on there that are a little on like the softer element of things, but the main, meat and bones of this album is, it's just heavy stuff. And to describe it up in, you know, 2 words is, or to describe it up in like 3 words, it's just, I'm here, bitch. Like, that's how I would describe the album. Like, like, yeah, that's what I would say the general feel is, I'm here, bitch. Like, and that's why I named it Hollywood Mortician, because I've been in LA now for 8 years since I moved here, and I'm just seeing so much of the fuckery that happens. And it's just dog eat dog world. It's not saying that's a bad thing or a good thing. It's, I personally don't like a lot of the things about it, but it's wolves amongst wolves, and everyone's trying to eat, and you gotta, find your own way to get to the same piece of meat without, sacrificing all sorts of crazy shit that people do out here.
100%.
Absolutely. I hope there's a merch shirt that says "I'm here, bitch," because I
Yeah,
want it.
Yeah.
I want
that'd
it.
be
Just a
sick.
crop top. I'm here, bitch.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Feel free, take it, sell it as merch.
Yeah.
I love that you mentioned, the fact that you've been in LA for 8 years. I've also been in LA for exactly 8 years as well. And, hearing a song like Los Angeles, like it's obviously offering such a harsh critique of the superficial nature of LA, exactly what you
Yeah.
described. And I also love, I think your press quote was possibly my favorite thing I've ever read in the history of being a music journalist. I don't know how to paraphrase it exactly, but it was something about being bent over.
Oh
And
yeah, Hollywood assholes bending over backwards, getting fucked in the asshole. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And when I read that, I was like, because I work at a record label as well, and I handle a lot of the press stuff. And it's like anytime we're asking for press quotes, it's the very standard press quote, and you're like, nah, fuck it. This is the
Yeah.
press quote right
No,
here.
yeah, there's so much, so
It's
much.
like-
I hate censored culture. Everything's so censored. Just like, uh, people think it, they say it in private, but they're afraid to say it in public. And I think we've lost that element. I mean, like 90s, early 2000s, people just fucking said what they wanted to say. And I think that's how it should always be. Just say it. It's okay. You know what I mean? There's going to be people who agree with you and disagree with you, regardless of what you say. So just say what it is.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was
Absolutely.
sort of my next point too, is like, your music is so fearless and confrontational. So you would obviously say like, do you feel like this is really lacking in today's scene? And, you know, do you
Um,
always want to continue to push those boundaries?
I don't know. It's so hard to know, right? Because there's so much music, and I can't physically know what everyone is doing, right? So it's so hard to know. But I will say that right now in 2025, there's a big nostalgia wave, and there has been a big nostalgia wave that I feel like since 2020, 2021 to now. And I just want to start to see some like fresher like things. I mean, no one can ever be 100% like this is totally brand new. You've never heard anything like this, but I'm seeing a lot of newer artists make very, very similar song. Like I'll use Deftones for example.
Sure.
I mean, fuck, Deftones had such a resurgence of their being that it's created, and again, these are my opinions. It's created an entire subgenre called shoegaze. You
Hmm.
know, that's what
Mhm.
I think Deftones had the biggest play in this whole shoegaze thing, where artists are essentially, a 2025 artist that just makes Deftones music,
Hmm.
and where it sounds exactly like what Deftones would do, which is cool and it's dope, because it helps push the scene, helps push the culture. But again, it goes back to that nostalgia thing. Everything's so nostalgia now. I feel like we haven't really had any like groundbreaking, what feels newer or fresher. And I don't know if I'm trying to do that, make it feel newer, fresher. I'm trying to make what I like, but I hope people feel that way too. That this sounds you know remade, reinvented, and not just like something from back in the day. I want people to feel like this sounds new and different and combines, because I try to really combine like melody, hip hop, and like hardcore, just
Yeah.
beat and stuff. I try to encompass all those three a little bit more than the other, just depending on the song.
Yeah, no, I mean I think that's what's so compelling about your music is it is pushing forward into the future and it does feel very modern, but it also does kind of feel like a familiar friend as well too. Like it does feel like
Mhm.
something you would you would put on in like 2003 at like the
Yeah,
skate
yeah,
park, Like
yeah. I try to, and it's not even like I'm trying to do that. It's just
yeah.
that's just what I like, and I hope that it comes across as it feels, you know, like its own thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, even, alienation shows a more introspective and kind of vulnerable side of your writing, packed with, sci-fi influenced atmosphere. Kind of what was your intention behind that track?
Yeah, Alienation was a gnarly track because I don't know what it was, but when I was writing that song, and it was also when I was writing the album Hollywood Mortician, and I was just having these crazy anxiety, panic attacks that would be like all day long, for months, and it was just be worse or less worse. And so when I was writing Alienation, I remember I was standing in front of the producer's front yard that I was working with, and I had to step outside the studio because I was like, "What the fuck?" You know what I mean? Like, I'm okay, nothing's going on, but I feel like I'm about to die, and
Hmm.
it's just such a
Yeah.
crazy feeling. And I was like, man, I don't even. I feel like a fucking alien in my own body, and that's how the whole concept of like alienation came about. And wrote that whole concept of that song. in his front yard as I was pacing back and forth, just being like, "Yo, I am not well,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna use every feeling I'm feeling right now and how I've been feeling to like make this song," and that's how Alienation came about.
Yeah, I mean, how do you sort
Yeah.
of manage that now today? Like, obviously, as you become more successful and as your career is growing, like, I'm sure the stress and anxiety
Yeah,
doesn't
well,
just go away.
it had gotten so bad I got on Lexapro medication. Like I'm telling you, I literally couldn't function, man.
Yeah.
It was like no joke. Like I could not do shit. And it's the weirdest things. Like I couldn't. I love going to concerts, and when I would try to go to a concert, like I had to leave. It's
Wow.
crazy. It's just like it sounds so stupid and like unbelievable when I say it, but like I really just is this feeling of like I'm going to die. I'm going to pass out and fall over,
Oh
and it
man.
was terrible. I hated it because I was like, what the fuck, man. But yeah, no longer on the Lexapro. Got off that. I just got just a better manage of just handling that stuff. So yeah.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, we know that well. And I've never heard anxiety described that way until you just said it right now. And I
Yeah.
love that it truly is feeling like you are an alien in your own body because we talk a lot about mental health on this podcast, and Alessandro and I both suffer from anxiety and things in different ways. I am currently on Lexapro, so I
Oh wow.
totally know that life,
Yeah.
to just manage life.
Yeah.
And it truly is feeling like an alien in your own body. I've just never heard it put that way. When you said it, I was like, man, that's so fucking true. Like hit for me there for
Yeah,
a second.
definitely. Yeah.
And on a lighter note of aliens, we love to always like throw in some weird kind of random questions. Are
Yeah.
you personally interested in the paranormal at all, or have you ever had any unexplained paranormal experiences?
Yeah, I'm not I wouldn't say like I'm a alien hunter, right? But I'm
Yeah.
super like intrigued by that stuff. And I definitely think there's another life form out there. Um, but have I had an alien or kind of contact? No, no, I don't think so. I would like to think
Yeah.
so. Sometimes you see something in the sky and like, man, I just fucking saw a UFO, I swear to God, but it's probably not. You
I
know?
would
I
think I
know.
would think like where you grew up in like more like rural Colorado that you would see a ton of shit up in the sky, you know?
Yeah, fuck, maybe, I don't know, you know? Yeah, I've never had any seen like weird stuff, but watch me tonight see some crazy shit or something.
Yeah.
I
I'm sure
know,
it'll
right?
probably happen in all of our lifetimes for sure. I think we're
Yeah.
very close. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I was talking to my husband about it, funny enough, aliens not too long ago, and he was like, dude, our race, like just what's going on in the world right now, like there's probably something out there, but they're probably looking at us and being like, these people are fighting over this thing called religion. We don't want to fuck with them.
Yeah.
He's like, we probably seem so like almost Neanderthal like
Yeah.
and just like fighting over stupid shit that they're just like these are like animals and we don't even want to like deal with them. And I was like, that's probably so true. Like they could be looking at us and just being like, we are so unintelligent that we can't even offer them like anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just maybe like the same way we look at like ants or something,
Yeah.
Yeah,
just like, oh, they exist, they're there, like let them do their thing, it's all good, you know what I mean? Like who knows?
totally.
100%. Yeah, and I just want to talk really quickly about CrowdKill Records too. I thought it was so cool to hear that that's Lorenzo's thing, former A&R of Sumerian. And, shouts out to Sworn Enemy, extremely, extremely underrated hardcore band.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, big time.
how did that partnership sort of come about? And, what are your guys' shared goals for this, the visions for this label going forward and with this release?
Yeah. Real quick, can you still see me? Because I can't see myself.
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
of
All right, as long as you
course.
guys just make sure it's all working. Yeah. First of all, I love Lorenzo and Anthony. I love Lorenzo and Anthony. They're have been a blessing so far, and I hope it continues to be that way. But they've been
Yeah.
nothing but good and supportive, and just a good guidance with so many things. And we actually met through another guy I know named Dale, who does a lot of like movie production stuff. And Lorenzo reached out to me, saw that me and Dale follow each other, hit up Dale. Dale told me, yo, hit up Lorenzo. I hit up Lorenzo back. And then that's how that whole kind of, management situation started, and then the whole CrowdKill record stuff as well. So it's been less than 6 months, but it's been great so far.
That's cool, man. That's awesome that you guys are, doing this, independently, taking an all DIY approach with that. That's super cool. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's been great. So no complaints there as of right now. I think those guys are some solid ass dudes, good character, and I really respect them.
Yeah, for sure.
Hell yeah. Obviously between fashion, fitness, tattoos, your aesthetic is clearly a very, key part of your identity. And as an artist, how intentional is your image and what would you say your like day-to-day lifestyle looks like off stage?
Yeah, I mean, image is a big thing. You know what I mean? Especially being an artist, you just want to be someone who can just stand out, in amongst of a crowd and be like, oh, that's that person. Oh, that's Post
Right.
Malone right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So image is big when you're an entertainer. And then my day to day life it changes all the time, but I would just sum it up all in as organized chaos. That's the
Hmm.
best way to describe it. Is everything is, things change and come up that you don't expect, and it's just all organized chaos. But it's all stuff you got to get done. But I try to, as of recently, been really trying to get back on always being at the gym, making sure I'm eating really healthy, use mega fit meals because, it saves me time like a motherfucker with not having to cook or go get food, and saves me money. So I have like these meals that are shipped dry ice to my house, and then I just rip it open, cook it. Super healthy, like, prep type of meals.
Hmm.
And then just spending time in my room, hanging out with my girl, um, going to different shows, making music, making songs, creating content. It's all about now so much different
Yeah.
content on the socials, and just
Yeah.
planning the next thing and the next thing. You know what I mean? And when there's just absolutely free time to do nothing, like I'll just like to go for a walk, or go down to the beach and just chill.
Nice, man.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sounds like a chill but busy, organized chaos day.
Yeah, organized chaos. I don't. I'm not into like, you know, going out to party and stuff. I never was. I mean, I've never drank or smoked my entire life. I've never consumed alcohol, no drugs, nothing. But I used to like to go out a whole lot more, just being in the scene of LA and stuff. But just got over that, and
Yeah.
just trying to fucking win and just make shit happen.
Fuck yeah, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd love to know too, saying since identity or style and how you look is so important, just kind of what maybe some of your favorite clothing brands or style icons are.
Yeah. Man, like I said, I love what Marilyn Manson,
Mm,
what he does, a lot of his fits. Um, and then yeah, I just a lot of that grunge, like the grunge mixed with like the hip hop, I like to call this, here you go. I'll sum it up like this: gangster goth.
Hell yeah.
Gangster goth.
Gangster
Yep.
goth. Yep,
That's what
there
we're
you go.
titling this episode for sure. It's
Yeah,
just
Gangster
gangster
goth.
goth.
gangster goth. I would describe my style as gangster goth, whatever that means. I like the style gangster goth. Yeah, that's
I
my
can
style.
see that. I can
That's
see that.
that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, just two more quick questions. You recently toured with, acts like In This Moment, Kim Dracula, Attila, Butcher Babies. What were some of the biggest takeaways from those runs? And, how did it feel to perform for both new audiences and your established fans already?
Great. It's always good. It's always good to perform in front of anybody. Um, Especially when people are enjoying it or like singing the lyrics back. You're like, holy fuck, you fucking memorize that shit. You're fucking crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the best, the best. And it feels good to feel appreciated for the work that you've put in and the time that you've spent on this stuff. And the biggest thing you learn when you're touring with like these bigger bands, is just takes time. Takes
Yeah.
time, takes consistency, and doesn't happen overnight for most people. I mean, some people it does, and fucking hell yeah to them. But most of the time it's a grind and it takes time. You just gotta, you know, let the results be the results. That's what I've gotten a lot better at is, instead of having these crazy expectations of I want this, is you gotta have the opposite approach of I'm gonna just put everything I can into this and let the results be the results. And that's that, because it's a long fucking game and you're gonna burn yourself out real quick if you're constantly stressing and getting huff puff over fucking, not getting the results that you want, because most of the time you're not gonna, get these crazy results that you want. It's just it's a grind of things.
For sure.
Absolutely. Well said. So well said. And kind of last question for you. It's kind of a two-parter, I guess. What kind of atmosphere experience do you kind of aim to create for, your live shows? And beyond the album, what kind of can fans expect from Nathan James for the rest of 2025?
Yeah, the atmosphere I like to create is definitely family. Like I call it the chain gang.
Yeah.
The whole concept is that it's like links, and each new link is a new member, and each new link we get a little bit stronger. And the atmosphere I like to just create is just King Kong. I'm in this fucking bitch. I like a lot of my songs to just feel like God just walked in the room and he's fucking coming for a vengeance, like type of situation. But if it's not a song that feels like that, then it's a little like an alienation song. I just want to be vulnerable and just have that side of it too. So there's those two sides. There's a huge fucking King Kong that just walked in the room, and there's this beautiful unicorn that walked in the room too. It's like both worlds coexist.
I love that, man.
Yeah, I always joke with the girls here too, because like soft girl but hard girl kind of vibes, like I have that like vulnerable side and like I'm very like loyal and caring with my like employees and my friends, but I also can like pull out that no bullshit, quite frankly, bitchy side when I need to, and I don't care.
Yeah,
Alessandro knows I say it the way I say it sometimes. I might be talking about someone else we're doing in business with, and I'm like, I'm just saying the way I feel. I don't care. I'm not sugarcoating it.
Yeah.
yeah,
Fucking
yeah.
saying what I feel. And then
King
other
Kong,
times I'm over
King
here
Kong, and
like,
unicorn right there.
Yeah.
exactly,
Fuck
exactly.
yeah.
It balances. I think people who also are very like yourself and myself, very driven entrepreneurs, artists, business people, like you have to have both sides and you need to kind of know in your art, in your business, like when to pull out which side, kind of,
So true.
what kind of day is it? Are we on the unicorn side or are we on the, the fucking intense side? Or some days it's a bit of both,
Yep.
and you got to have
Yeah.
both because that balances me the fuck out for sure.
Yeah, it's just the coexistence of having both is so important in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Nathan, this has been awesome, man. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. And, Hollywood Mortician, it's out July 11th. Congrats on everything. Super stoked for the record to come out. And yeah, thank you again.
Brother, thank you guys. Appreciate you.
Of course. All right, man.
Awesome.
Have a great
Talk
rest of your
soon.
day.
You too. See you guys.
See ya.